Hello. Are y'all ready for me to be a little rambly? I mean, I'm generally a little rambly anyway, but this is going to be a little bit rambly. So let's get started. First of all, welcome to All Things Maya. My name is Maya. This is all about all my crafty endeavors. And today I want to talk about paralysis. Not what you think of like physical paralysis, but some people call it like crafter's paralysis, option paralysis. Um, and it's getting to be a really, really difficult thing for me. Like, I want to start projects, and all I can think is, will this be good enough? Will I? How can I finish it? Well, if I wanted to, could I sell this? Could I give this away? Of course, I wouldn't give it away because I wouldn't give it away because it wouldn't be perfect. Um, and that's really what I'm calling this is sort of perfection paralysis because I can't help but start projects and think, what is the end result going to be? And is that end result going to be good enough? Is it going to be nice enough? If I wanted to, could I sell it without feeling self conscious that someone's not going to like it or that there's going to be a problem with it? And that's not something that should really be a problem because I don't sell things. I mean, I did for a little while. I sold some yarns, I sold some fibers and things like that, and I really enjoyed doing it. There's a certain amount of validation that you get from someone liking your stuff enough that they want to put out money to buy it. That's not something that's practical for me now. There's so many. I mean, just the world. I started selling back when Etsy started in 2005. I started an Etsy shop, and the world has changed so much since then. And there's so much encouragement for people to take the goods that they make by hand and sell it, and that's a beautiful thing. I absolutely adore that concept. For me, I can't do that. I've got too many things on a personal front. I've got too many personality quirks that don't really work with the whole make things and then list things and then do SEOs and promote and advertise and like that. No. Um, so that shouldn't be a factor anymore. I should be able to just make things because I enjoy making them. And I do enjoy making things. I have just sort of a creative bug in me that just goes, you want to make, you have to be doing, you have to create something, make something, do something, anything. And I've just realized more and more over the last couple of months, I guess, that like I'll start something, but then I'll stop it because what if it doesn't work out well? Or it's got to the point where I won't even start things anymore. Like I got a loom recently, and it's a rigid head loom and it's great. And I did my first project. I was all gung ho. I warped it up. Probably did the warping wrong, so that was annoying me. But then I used the weft as some of my hand spun yarn, and a lot of people are like, "That's a bold move." The first thing you make on your first project on a loom that you've never used before, and you use your hand spun yarn, and it didn't bother me. It's yarn that I like. The colors together or something that I've been wanting to put together, and it was old. I mean, from like when I started selling, over 10 years old, and so it was getting some use to it, and that's great. But now I've stopped. I've done one project on this loom. I mean, this is a couple $100. Actually, I think it was over $300 for the cost of the loom, and I haven't even worked it up a second time. And part of it is time. Part of it is whenever I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many little fiddly bits to doing just the warping. Because the weaving is great, just in and out. You just start, you're going, you get a rhythm and you just go. But I was like, well, I don't have enough hand spun, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. Just so many reasons why I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this. And then I'm like, but what about the end result? What do I do then? What do is it going to be right? Will I have done it correctly? Will I have done it correctly? Will I have made it sufficiently correct enough to that if I wanted to, I'll sell it? I can't do that with my fingers. I had surgery one time ages ago. Three. If I do make it and I'm not selling it, would I be able to give it away? Like, who would I give it away to? Four, if I can't give it away and I'm not selling it and it's not perfect, which would drive me nuts not being perfect, what do I do with it? Now it's just sitting in my house, sitting in my room and taking up space. So no, I no longer have just yarn taking up space. I have a finished product, a finished item taking up space now. And what do I do with it? And what if no one wants it, even if I could give it away? So I'm struggling now to start projects for wanting to not knowing how they'll finish or if they'll be good enough or if I'll have done them correctly. And I think that's a real issue. It has stagnated my I don't want to say my production because I'm not doing it as a part of production, but it has really stagnated my creativity. I've got an ideal now for something to work on the loom. Um, so now it's just a push to make myself warp it. Um, it's not meant to be perfect. It's going to be sort of platy, like some stripes of different color warps and some weft of different colors. And it's not going to be any rhyme or reason because I do have a tendency towards symmetry. I like things to be symmetrical, but I'm not going to let myself do that this time. And I'm going to push through and see what happens. But I'm just interested to know, like, how do you overcome this feeling of, will this be good enough to sell? Or how do you get yourself to just sit down and be like, hey, I love creating, I'm going to do it? Like, how do you get out of that mindset of it has to be right? It has to be perfect. It has to be nice. It has to be something that someone will be like, oh, can I have this? Or, oh, can I pay you for this? Because I don't know. And I'm really, really stuck right now. And it's bothering me. Um, I've gotten to the point where I'm collecting supplies more than making things. I think that for a while, like I got to kick back into spinning for a little while. And that was great because spinning in and of itself is an end point. You know, I could spin a yarn, and even if it's not the most consistent yarn, it's still good enough to spin. It's still good enough to, I mean, it's still good enough to use for a project, or still good enough that if I wanted to, I could sell it. I know that I am confident enough in my, and that's saying something for me. I am confident enough in my spinning that I know that if I made something, if I spun a yarn, I could sell it to the right person. But it's even gotten to the point now where I'm like, well, did I get enough fiber to spin enough yarn to make a project? Like, even that is becoming hindered by this need for this nebulous concept of like the doing the right thing with it or making it perfect or making it good enough. Like, nothing in this world, ideally, we shouldn't struggle with, is this good enough? Because the concept of good enough always indicates that somebody's not good enough, or that something you've done is not good enough and not worth its own merit or have its own like value if it's not good enough. And so lately that's kind of where I've been struggling. Like, I have a lot of things that I struggle with, in terms of like follow through. I have horrible follow through. I can start something and not finish it in a heartbeat. That's like, that's pretty much key Maya right there. Um, but like, if I do follow through with something all the way through, it I worry. I incessantly worry that it's not good enough. And that's something I know that I've got to work on. I know that it's really important to give myself, as my therapist says, give myself grace, because everything's not going to be perfect. Everything's not going to be the way I want it to be. And I've got to learn to accept that. So the key thing is, how do I start accepting that in my crafting and allow my creativity to blossom and stop hindering myself with this concept of, oh, would it be good enough for someone to want to buy? I recently did a little frame loom project, and there was no rhyme or reason to it. I was just trying out techniques, trying to see how things worked out, and honestly, I really kind of loved it. Still no purpose for it. I have half a dozen of these little bookmarks from from the class that I learned to weaving with. I took the class. They taught us bookmarks. I did like 10 more of them so I could practice. I could get even edges and a good tension and warp it correctly. And then I was like, I would like to do more. And so I have this little frame loom, and I did a little bit more. I made them a little bit bigger, but now I have these big panels of like, I want to say nothing. I have these big panels of nothing, but it's not that they're nothing. They are an end product. They are a thing that I created. It is a direction that I went, but I don't know what to do with them. And that's consistently my problem, is I don't know what to do with my projects. And that's only if I get to the point where I acknowledge that I have finished something that's has its own merit. I have to um I have to be able to go, okay, this is done. It's not perfect. There's going to be, and I do that. I pick apart everything that I make. I'll knit something and be like, oh yeah, but I had too many stitches here, so I had to combine the stitches so I can get back to the number of stitches I'm supposed to have. I have it's like a hobby. It's like a job in how to tear myself down, or how to pick apart the things that I make and do. And I mean, just on a mental level alone, that's not helping. But it's really creating this sense of perfectionism, for lack of a better word, um, that is started before I even get started. Like, how can you, how can you, how can you be such a perfectionist that it prevents you from even getting to perfect? Like, you don't have an option of getting to perfect because you're not starting. You just refuse to start because what if it's not perfect? There's a lot of what ifs in life, and one of them shouldn't be like, I love doing creative things, but what if my creative isn't creative enough? What if my creative isn't good enough? What if it has no value or no merit? What if it's not perfect? And I struggle with that. So, I mean, there's no real rhyme or reason to this video. I just thought maybe other people out there understand this. Maybe other people out there can tell me, maybe they can tell me how they deal with it. Maybe I can get on the road to the road to recovery. Maybe I can get onto the road to recovery and be able to enjoy making things and not have to be like, it has to be a specific thing, and it has to look a specific way, and it has to be worthy of someone wanting to buy it, even if I'm not offering it up as an option for them to buy. And I don't know. I don't know how to get to that place. And if you do, let me know, because I've got to try something. As I said, I've got a large stash of supplies right now, and it's not going anywhere. It just sort of stares at me. The sewing machine, the yarn, the fabric, all of these things just sort of stare at me, and they're like, I could be something, but what if I'm not perfect? And I needed to get from that to like, I could be something, and it's good enough. One of the people I follow on YouTube um, actually started saying a phrase, "Done is better than perfect," and I really appreciate that, because having something is better than not having anything at all. But and yet, and still, I've listened to her say this a while, and I still can't get it done. I I'm still searching for this thing that's good enough that if I wanted to, I could sell it. That if wanted to, if someone offered me money, I'd be happy to go. Here you go. You can have it. Okay, thanks for the money, but here you go. You can have it. And I'm struggling. So, like I said, this is a little bit rambly, um, and it was meant to be. I just really needed to get this off my mind. If y'all have any ideas, I'm open to them. Drop them in the comments. While you're there, subscribe, like. I don't do things very often, but I always like having people watch them, and I value people's opinions. So, um, until next time, bye.